Good day, and welcome to the webinar, Waste Station Bypass Apps versus Transponders, which is right for you. I'm Evan Lockridge, a consultant to PrePass. PrePass provides waste station bypass and toll payment services, as well as data dashboard tools for improving safety, efficiency, and cost control. Today, we'll be discussing the different technology options for truck waste station bypassing, transponders, and mobile apps, including details from the first research study that looks at their differences. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. We have muted all lines, so if you have a question, type it into the questions box located in the webinar panel. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation. Also, at the end of the webinar, you'll receive a quick survey, so please take a few moments to provide your feedback. At this time, I'd like to welcome our presenter, Warren Heyman. Warren has been in the trucking industry a little more than 40 years, including serving as Deputy Administrator of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration from 2003 through 2006. His other experience includes 8 years with the California Trucking Association and a decade with the American Trucking Associations. Warren?
Thank you, Evan, and welcome everybody. Now, here's the problem. The photo on your screen is a current Google satellite image of the Desert Hills facility in California with trucks stacked onto the highway. This was a commonplace occurrence 25 years ago before the dawn of bypass technology. As you can see, it can even happen today. As a safe carrier, you see this as a monument of inefficiency. The time spent in line and during inspection could be better spent heading down the road. From a commercial vehicle law enforcement perspective, time was also wasted, separating the wheat from the chaff, the safe carriers from those who needed attention. And everyone agrees that backing up trucks onto the main line and then merging them back on after inspection invites safety issues, slow traffic interacting with those at highway speeds. But first, a little history. It's been said you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. Well, 3 decades ago or more, a group of Western states and the British Columbia province met with trucking industry representatives to discuss the problems at waste stations and inspection facilities. Okay, I'm showing my age here. I was actually there at the first meeting as one of the trucking folks. There wasn't a lot of mutual trust in that room, but 2 things trucking and law enforcement did agree on: safety and efficiency. Together, trucking and enforcement tried an experiment. Could trucks be electronically identified and weighed at highway speeds, with those having a good safety record and in full compliance with things like registration, tax, and weight, allowed to legally bypass the roadside facility? Well, that experiment worked. And from that successful experiment, the states and industry set up a neutral third party to oversee the expansion of bypass opportunities. That group was HELP Inc. HELP stands for Heavy Vehicle Electronic License Plate, HELP, because in those days the transponder was mounted above the front license plate on the truck. And in 25 years later, I should say, HELP Inc. continues as a nonprofit, public-private alliance. And as you can see in the picture, with equal state and industry board representation and a mission dedicated to, you know these words, safety and efficiency. I started to say in that front-mounted transponder, well, it's now moved inside the cab, and you recognize it as PrePass. Well, safety and efficiency are great concepts, but they say the nerve center of the human body is in the wallet. So what are the benefits of bypassing? Well, FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, did some calculations several years ago. FMCSA says that each successful bypass saves the carrier an average of 5 minutes and a half gallon of fuel. Along with other costs, FMCSA put the total savings at $8.68 for each bypass. Those figures are getting old, so the numbers are probably greater today. PrePass has surveyed fleets and found two other benefits: driver retention and driver recruitment. Both of those spring from the fleet having a demonstrably safe record, a record that won't tie up drivers at the scales. And recently, a university research center independently concluded that shippers see carrier participation in a bypass program as a reason to choose a fleet, more reliable ETA, and a safer transportation partner. Electronic bypass started with the transponder. The transponder uses RFID technology, which means radio frequency identification. RFID utilizes the 5.9 gigahertz radio spectrum. It is a technology also chosen by the US Department of Transportation for connected and autonomous vehicles, so it's something that's right in the news today. The US DOT made that choice because RFID is extremely accurate. Today, electronic bypass is also offered using CMRS technology. CMRS stands for Commercial Mobile Radio Services, which you may know better as cell phone technology. CMRS is flexible. It can be an app on a smartphone or a tablet, or as part of an onboard computer platform in a truck. CMRS communicates with wireless geofences near way stations instead of the overhead readers used by RFID transponders. That can allow states to geofence roadside inspection sites without the poles and overhead arms that RFID would require. Whichever technology is used, here's how electronic bypass works. So follow the screen. The number one you see there is communication. With a transponder, roadside signs alert the driver when approaching the PrePass site. Drivers merge into the right lane, and RFID communication between the in-cab transponder and the reader identifies the truck. With a mobile app, the mobile app alerts the driver that the way station is approaching and to merge into the right lane. A cellular connection is established between the in-cab device and the way station. Number two on your screen, it's called screening. The PrePass system electronically checks the carrier's safety and vehicle credentials, such as, again, registration, fuel tax, etc. Based on the truck's clearance status, the PrePass system will send a signal to the transponder and or the PrePass Motion app. The number three is notification. With a transponder, the driver receives a screening result visually and audibly. A green light indicates a bypass, and a red light indicates the driver must pull into the way station. With a mobile app, a pull in or bypass decision displays to the driver. If also using a transponder, a follow in cab transponder alert displays on the application. Number four on your screen is called random selection. To help maintain system integrity, some trucks enrolled in a bypass program are randomly selected and receive a red light or a pull-in alert requiring them to pull into the way station where a carrier's compliance can be confirmed. Number five, last recall. With a transponder, the bypass screening signal, whether you cleared or not, will continue to flash for 15 minutes after passing the way station. This provides confirmation of the vehicle's bypass status for both the driver and law enforcement should that truck happen to be pulled over. With a mobile app, well, using the PrePass Motion mobile app as an example, the last decision recall is available within the app's main menu. This again allows drivers to show an officer the most recent site passed, the decision alert screen, and the date of the last decision. Well, now you know how RFID and CMRS work with a bypass, and they can support that system. But the question is, are they equally as good? That question was raised by US DOT. In its phase 2 wireless roadside inspection pilot, the DOT chose RFID over CMRS because of two concerns. CMRS connectivity, which means possibility of dropped calls, and latency, which relates to slow loading of data. Well, HELP decided to define the conditions that support consistent and reliable CMRS performance. So HELP commissioned the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, TTI, to provide answers. Surprisingly, although CMRS was already in use, no one, government or private provider, had thoroughly researched its real world performance, which of course is a critical issue when highway safety is the bottom line for electronic bypass. In 2016 and 2017, TTI conducted test track and real world highway operations with a CMRS app on smartphones and tablets carried in the cab of vehicles. Different wireless providers allowed an assessment of signal strength, while onboard GPS compared location to what was read by the app. The test runs included different vehicle speeds and distances between the test vehicles, and also different spacing between an initial geofence and a second geofence near a WIM or weigh in motion scale. Here are the key findings of the TTI study. First, surprisingly to the researchers, weak cell signals did not appear to be a problem with CMRS. Having just a few bars on the cell phone did not interfere with a successful bypass. However, there must be connectivity. Calls cannot be dropped. Wireless signal connectivity should be examined wherever CMRS is proposed for use. Key finding number two, unlike electronic bypass with RFID transponders, CMRS technology can have difficulty distinguishing vehicles traveling too close together. That's a distance the TTI researchers called headway. TTI also discovered that CMRS technology does require a second geofence near the WIM scale to correctly capture vehicle weight. Headway in particular affects the accuracy of CMRS, the ability to attribute the correct packet of safety, credentials, and weight to the correct vehicle at highway speeds. Researchers call a failure in this area miscorrelation. The result of a miscorrelation is a red light instructing the driver to pull in, possibly for no discernible safety reason. Headway, which is how close vehicles are to each other, is impacted by vehicle speed and by traffic volumes. At higher speeds, vehicles are naturally more spread out. That suggests CMRS will be particularly useful at low volume sites and where free flow traffic conditions exist. But again, RFID was not affected by headway. Key finding number three, TTI tracked the accuracy of CMRS at different headways measured by the time between test vehicles. The maximum accuracy found for CMRS technology was 93.9%, where there was a headway between the vehicles of 4 seconds or more. When the vehicles are 3 to 4 seconds apart, the accuracy of CMRS was 93.3%. Between 2 and 3 seconds, 84.2% CMRS accuracy. When less than 2 seconds, when they're close, 81.5% CMRS accuracy. So CMRS accuracy, as found by TTI, ranged from 81.5% when vehicles are close to a maximum of 93.9%. At every headway, the PrePass transponder with RFID, by comparison, was 99.99% accurate. This chart summarizes the major differences between RFID and CMRS as confirmed by the TTI study. This might be a good one to request or download from PrePass because it's a nice summary. You look first, the device used is different. Transponder versus mobile app. Infrastructure differences. RFID requires overhead arms and readers. CMRS uses geofences. RFID does not need a wireless signal. CMRS can work with weak wireless signals, but must have connectivity. In other words, no drop calls. RFID is 99.99% accurate. CMRS accuracy varies from 93.9% down to 81.5% when vehicles are close together. So bottom line, RFID is best used at high volume, heavily trafficked sites and at toll facilities. CMRS offers broader coverage, including low volume sites and virtual stations. So which is better, RFID or CMRS? Well, the TTI study suggests that both technologies have a place in electronic bypass programs. Carriers and enforcement alike must choose what technologies fit best for each location. So when you're evaluating what you want, here's your first question. Where do you travel? Some jurisdictions, including Washington State, Iowa, and British Columbia, primarily accept RFID transponders for electronic bypass. If your travel includes high volume, heavily trafficked, fixed inspection sites like the one we saw on our first slide, the greater accuracy of an RFID transponder will mean more successful bypasses and fewer trucks pulled in unnecessarily. On the other hand, CMRS technology can offer broader coverage, including low volume locations and whatever virtual roadside inspection locations a jurisdiction might geofence. For law enforcement, CMRS allows inspection locations where it would not be cost effective to install the roadside hardware required by RFID. So now you looked at where you travel, your second question is, are your trucks on toll roads? Currently, only RFID transponders like PrePass Plus are approved for toll transactions. Toll administrators count every penny. That's their business. And only RFID technology meets their standards. Third question. What percentage of successful bypasses is acceptable to you? There will be more red lights, more pull-in alerts with CMRS. That's just reality. But users and enforcement alike must decide what accuracy is acceptable. Good, better, and best. From PrePass, the good is the PrePass Motion app. It's convenient. It offers bypass coverage even at virtual inspection sites. Better is the PrePass RFID transponder, the first bypass technology and still the most accurate. But the best, you can have both. For trucks equipped with the PrePass transponder, there's no downside to adding the Motion app. When approaching a way station that accepts both technologies, the Motion app will automatically defer to the more accurate PrePass transponder with a follow the transponder message. The driver, so, will not be confused by a red light on one device and a green light on the other. Well, thank you all for listening. Evan, it looks like we're about ready for some questions.
That's right, Warren, and thank you very much for the presentation. At this time, we can answer your questions. If you have a question, type it into the questions box located on the webinar panel. Now, if we do not get to all of your questions, we will respond to you directly with the email you provided at registration. As Warren mentioned, with PrePass, carriers have the option of both a transponder and a mobile app. Carriers pay for the bypass service, and the subscriber price is the same for the good, better, or best option. You can download Motion from the Google Play and Apple stores. You must call PrePass at 1-800-PrePass to activate service. All right, Warren, let's get to the questions. First one here: why does PrePass say it only counts fixed way stations in its number of total sites?
Well, Evan, the reason that PrePass will only count the fixed way stations is because the virtual stations that states do set up may be temporary, or they may be used seldom or not at all. States and jurisdictions will set up virtual way stations, geofence them, to do traffic counts or for seasonal traffic that they know is coming, let's say, from a farm area, but then it won't be available the rest of the year. It will not be used. So PrePass only counts the fixed sites and only tells the carriers of successful bypasses when there actually was enforcement present.
Okay, next question: is there an extra fee to get the PrePass Motion app?
As you just said, no, there is not. PrePass offers the combination of both the Motion app and the transponder for the same subscription price. You must download the Motion app from the Google Store, uh, from the iTunes, and then call PrePass to activate. But your subscription price will not change.
Now, is every PrePass site set up for the mobile app?
It's a work in progress and is rapidly being set up for the mobile app. Uh, that's also one reason that we really think that the best solution is also to have the transponder.
And then most PrePass sites are set up and locations are expanding. That includes what, NorPass, Oregon Greenlight, and Way to Go BC, correct?
That is correct. PrePass has agreements with NorPass and the Oregon Greenlight systems and in British Columbia so that the PrePass transponder is accepted in those locations.
Okay, another viewer of the webinar wants to know what you mean by the term location coverage.
Location coverage really relates to the cell phone signal if you're using a CMRS technology. Again, CMRS by the TTI study does work with weak cell phone signals, but if you drop calls or you don't have coverage, you're not going to have the benefit of that technology.
Okay, and Warren, after seeing your presentation, one person wants to know if you're saying that mobile apps aren't as good for bypassing as transponders.
Now, the TTI study really showed that you have a choice, and frankly, law enforcement has a choice as well, because each technology has its strengths and its weaknesses. The strength of RFID, the transponder technology, is extreme accuracy. The downside, on the other hand, is it does cost to put that roadside hardware, the overhead arms and readers, which may not be cost effective in some low volume sites. The strength of CMRS, the cell phone technology, is you can put it anywhere by geofencing. The downside, as we've seen from the TTI study, is it cannot be as accurate overall as RFID, and when vehicles are close together, that accuracy drops.
All right, Warren Heyman, thank you very much for the answers and the presentation. And that is all the time we have for our webinar. Please do not forget to fill out the short survey, which you will see in just a moment. Also, don't forget to visit the PrePass website at prepass.com, where you can read blogs and white papers that can help your operations, and you can also listen to podcasts on current topics in the trucking industry. Once again, that's at the PrePass website, prepass.com. I'm Evan Lockridge for Warren Heyman and everyone else at PrePass. Thank you for attending today's webinar.